Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're gonna go over the xTool S1 10-watt laser. Now, xTool sent this to me and I could not be more excited about it. I've wanted a laser cutter slash engraver for a really long time and I am loving it so far. Spoiler alert. So in this video, I'm gonna go over how to set up your machine. We're going to work on a couple projects throughout, and I really just want to share all of the amazing things that this machine can do. I really hope you all enjoy this video, and I hope you like all of the laser videos that I'm going to be posting on my channel throughout the holiday season especially. If there's anything specific that you'd like to see, please let me know down below in the comments. I've been having so much fun trying out all kinds of different projects and materials, so if there's something you want to see, please don't hesitate to ask, and I can try to make videos on all of that stuff for my channel. I'll have a bunch of information down below in the description box, so be sure to check that out if you want more links to all of the equipment that I'm using from xTool, all of my supplies, social media, all of that fun stuff is always down in the description box for you. So be sure to check that out, and I think that's it. Okay, let's go! First things first, we have to unbox this big ol' thing. Now this came in multiple packages because we have some accessories that I'm going to share with you, but once I was ready, I was ready. So if you haven't noticed, this thing is pretty big. It is not so big though that you can't fit it on a desk or a tabletop. So what I'm going to do is get this all unpacked, and then we'll go through some of the accessories and setup and all of that fun stuff. Alright, so the riser base is an accessory from xTool that you can order along with your machine, and this will raise your laser up and allow you to do things that maybe are a little bit larger or a little bit deeper, so you can do like tumblers and things like that. So I put together the riser base just according to the instructions in the instruction manual. Now I'll be honest, all of these instruction manuals that come with each of these separate things are not the best because there's no words. You just have to follow the pictures, but luckily the setup overall is pretty simple and it's pretty easy to figure out, but I do wish that there were some words to tell you like what to do in a little bit more detail, because I like detailed instructions. But anyway, so once I had the riser base put together, I had to remove this bottom tray from the laser machine. Now this tray is what's going to be adjustable based on the height of whatever you're working on. So if you just have the laser by itself, you can just keep this where it is. You don't need to take it out and replace it, because you'll just be able to do basically one like depth of thing, if that makes sense. But with the riser base, you can adjust this tray within the different levels. Think about like how you can adjust the racks in your oven. It's exactly the same thing. You'll have different slits on the riser base and you can put this tray in to whatever height you need. The next accessory I want to talk about is the honeycomb panel. Now this is basically just a big sheet that you'll place on top of that pan, and this is going to help you get basically cleaner cut lines So this will help get smoother edges. You won't have a lot of staining if you're like cutting wood or anything like that. And it comes with these little magnet pieces that you can stick into all of those little holes of the honeycomb to hold your piece down on the edges so that it doesn't like move around as you're working. So like I said, you would just slip this right on top of that sheet and then place your piece, whatever you want to engrave or cut or whatever, right on top of that, and then you can go. So now I want to talk about something that is very, very important, and I wish there was more detailed information on this because I had a heck of a time. Everything was totally smooth sailing until I got to ventilation. So with the machine, you get a piece of like tubing that will screw into the back of the machine. And you can essentially take that and stick it out your window and be probably fine, but I wanted to make sure that everything was really, really well ventilated and that I was pulling any smoke out of the machine and out of my workspace because I am working in my basement in my house, so I didn't want like smoke all over the place. So with this little tube that comes with the machine, I got an adapter piece so that I could attach that 3-inch tube that comes with the laser to a 6-inch tube that's right here. So I got the adapter, plugged those in, did a wonderful taping job. I feel like I'm gonna have to update this at some point because I just like did my best. So to that 6-inch tube, I attached an inline fan. I got this one on Amazon, but xTool also sells one if you want to order everything at the same time. And that fan is going to suck all of the air out. So I attached another tube to the other side, and then I got a window unit so that I can attach this, as you can see, to my window and direct everything outside. So that's my solution right now for ventilation. I might update it kind of as I go and as I work more with the laser. Might get like an exhaust fan or something, I don't know. But that's my solution for right now, and for the most part it works pretty great. I don't have any smoke or anything when I'm working. There's a little bit of a smell, but it's not nearly as bad, I don't think, as it would have been if I would have just used the 3-inch tube that comes with the machine. Then I plugged in the power cable and the key that you'll need to use the machine. And now I want to talk about air assist. This is another accessory that you can get, and I think this is almost like a non-negotiable, like you have to have this. This will help with so many different things, and basically what it does is like blow air down where your laser is working, and it will help with obviously airflow. It helps reduce the temperature of whatever you're working on so you don't have like scorch marks on your wood, or you know, if you're working on something like that, it's just going to give you like a cleaner cut on the surface of the wood, and it just helps with a bunch of things. So I will have it linked below if you want to read all of the benefits of having air assist, but I think it's something that you should definitely have with your machine. And you don't need any like power source for this. It just plugs right into your machine and then it works. There's also an automatic function, so you just turn it on auto and it basically just knows what you're going to do based on what your settings are in XCS. So you don't really have to fiddle with it too much if you just put it on auto, and it just works and makes all of your projects a whole lot better. So highly recommend Air Assist. And now I want to talk about the software. So you can either use Lightburn, which is a third-party website that you can pay for, or you can use xTool Creative Space, and that's what I chose to use. So I just downloaded it onto my computer, and this is where you'll go in to do all of your fun laser projects. So over on the left side, you can import images, create text, create shapes, and do all kinds of different things. So for this first project, I'm going to create a text box and create a little Instagram handle, like watermark thing that I can use in photos or in my studio or whatever. So I'm going to click the text box, and then I'm going to type in my Instagram handle. And over on the right hand side, you can change the font. Now, XCS has a few fonts built in that you can choose from, but you'll also be able to choose from any of the fonts that you have installed on your computer. So I'm just going to click that drop-down menu and then scroll down until I find a font that I want to use for this particular project. One thing I really like is when you're scrolling through and kind of highlighting a font within that font list, it will change the preview of whatever you have typed out so that you can actually see what it looks like really quickly without having to change the actual font every single time. So I really like that feature. So once I found my font, I'm going to resize this to whatever size I want to make it. I wanted to make it pretty big. So once I've got it resized, I'm going to create a shape so that I can engrave the actual words, but cut out the shape around it. So I'm going to hit this outline button down at the bottom, and that's going to create an offset of the words that we have typed out. So then I'll go in and manually change the size. Now, if you're a Cricut user or a Silhouette user, this is just like creating an offset for a decal that you're gonna make. It's the same type of idea. And by the way, this XCS software reminds me a lot of Cricut Design Space. It's very user-friendly. At least for me, it seems very straightforward. Like all of the buttons that you're gonna click, like everything is a familiar term for the most part. So if you use either Silhouette Studio or Cricut Design Space, this should not be too foreign for you to pick up and be able to use. Once I've got my outline, I'm going to double click on it to show me all of these little dots. And now these are all of the little like cut line areas basically. So this is the path that the laser is going to take to cut this out. And I want to adjust it a little bit because I don't really like how it dips down in the middle where the underscore in my handle is. So I'm just going to delete a few of those cut lines. I started by just moving them around and then I decided I was just going to delete them. So you just click on the little dot and then hit delete on your keyboard and it will get rid of those cut lines so that we have just a nice like bubble around our letters. All right, so now that we have our design set, we are going to set the parameters for each of our sections. So like I said, I want to engrave my actual words and then cut out the shape around it. So if you click on your words or click on any element, you can go up to the top right-hand corner and select your material. So for this, I'm using 3 milliliter, I use epoxy too much, millimeter basswood. And I'm going to highlight my words and then in the Easy Set panel, I'm going to hit engrave and then I'll click on the shape around it and then hit cut on that Easy Set panel. So your options are score, engrave, and cut. And down here at the bottom, there's a one-click set panel. So it will give you some like preset settings that you can select just one of those little shapes, and that's what it'll just adjust your power, speed, and all of that stuff according to that chart. So you can set it that way, or you can put in all the numbers manually. Now, since I'm just really a beginner at using a laser, I like to use that quick selection. I don't really put in a lot of my own parameters, but it seems to be working out just fine. So I'm going to select those different parameters for my project. Now you can do this at the same time. You just have to select each different setting for your engraving and your cutting and all of that based on your different elements. Hopefully that makes sense. But once I've got those set, we can get started on cutting this thing out. So I've got my tray set to the highest level possible because remember I've got the riser base on. I put my honeycomb panel on top of that and then I put my wood down secured with those little magnet holders right in the middle. The first thing we need to do is set our distance. So over here on the right side, there's a button that says distance. And what you're going to do is move your laser to about the middle of your project, and then you'll hit the distance button. And that's going to basically just make sure that your laser can reach where it is. So it'll take that little pin that's on the right-hand side of your laser, drop it down onto your project material, move it over to a little like base camp, I like to call it, hit that distance, and then it will come back to your project. And that's just going to make sure that the laser can hit your project in the right way, I guess is the best way I can explain it. The next thing we'll need to do is our marking. So again, on the right-hand side of your XCS, you'll see a button that says Start Marking, and it'll bring up this little panel for the processing area. Basically is what you're gonna do is define where you're going to cut this out on your material. So you'll hit start marking, and then you'll select the shape that you're gonna do. I just hit rectangle, and then you'll move your laser to one corner of your project, and then you'll hit the button on your machine, and that'll hit your first point, and then you'll move your laser diagonally to that opposite corner. And then you'll hit the button on your machine again, and that's going to define that rectangular space for you to fit your project into. So once you've got those 2 points, you can hit end marking and then done. And then on your canvas, you'll see that same shape that you just created with your marking, and then you can move your project into that shape. If you ever create a shape that's not big enough or whatever, you can always erase the markings that you made and do it over again. So I'm just going to drag my project into that shape, resize it a little bit. I don't have any specific size parameters, so I'm just making it basically as big as I can. And then I'm going to hit start processing on the bottom right hand corner. So this will show you a preview of your project, and then down in the bottom left hand corner you'll see the about estimated time that it's going to take to complete the project. And then in the upper right hand corner will be your start button. So you'll hit start in XCS, and then you'll hit the button on your machine to start your project. So after processing, our little project is all done. That was so easy, and I really like how this turned out. Look how cute it is. Such a clean cut, no messy lines or anything, no staining, and our first project is officially complete. So I say we move on to something a little more complicated, shall we? Now, if you watch my channel regularly, you will know that tumblers are my first love. I love making tumblers, and I'm so excited to try laser engraving them. So this accessory is the RA2. It's a rotary tool for engraving tumblers. Now, I'll admit, when I opened this, I was like, oh no, this is too hard. This is too complicated for me. This is a lot of little pieces. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I just took it all out, and then I walked away, and I was overwhelmed. And so I walked away, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to take it all out, and I'm just going to let it kind of look at me for a little while, and then I'll come back and figure out how to do it. And after I looked through the manual and kind of got familiar with the pieces, I realized that it's really not as complicated as it looks, and it's not as intimidating as it seems when you open this box and you have all of these tiny little gears and pieces and everything. So don't be intimidated. It's really pretty easy. So in this video, we're going to start with just engraving a straight-sided tumbler. Now in the future, I do plan on making videos engraving handled tumblers, tumblers with a curve, working on all of that, but those will be dedicated videos that will go more into detail with. In this video, because this is really just like an intro and overview of all of these things you can do with this machine, I wanted to just do a straight, skinny tumbler. So the first thing we're going to do is remove that bottom tray and slide it all the way down to the bottom level, or like, you know, the lowest level that you can do with that riser base. And we're not going to use the honeycomb panel for this. So you'll just put that tray in, close that little front drawer, and then we're going to put our rotary tool right in the middle of that pan within our laser. When you do that, you want to make sure that the side that says xTool, that has all the letters on it, is to your right, and then the arms that are going to hold your tumbler are facing it to the left. The rotary tool will come with 3 different cables, so you just want to make sure that you use the right cable for your machine. It has this little card that will tell you exactly which cable to use, so just make sure you use the right one or the tool won't work. So one end of the cable obviously is going to plug into the rotary tool, and then the other one will plug into your laser. So for the S1, we have this cord that has a little white end that'll plug into the rotary tool, and then the other part will plug into the little plug that's on the front right corner of the laser. So once you've got that plugged in, you're essentially ready to go. So I'm going to go into XCS here, and I'm going to create a little wrap for my tumbler that we can use to engrave. So I started by measuring the height and width of my tumbler, and you'll want to do this pretty much every time, especially if you're using different brands of tumblers. The cup I'm going to use in this video is just a random one that I got on clearance at Hobby Lobby. So I took the measurements and I created a rectangle in XCS with those same dimensions. And I decided I wanted to do a fun little Halloween wrap. So I'm going to use some files that I've been hoarding on my computer for a really long time. And basically what I'm going to do is try to fill up as much space within that square shape that I created as possible. I want this to be basically a full engraved wrap. So I'm just going to import all of these images, resize them, and fill in as much of the space as I can. That took me a really long time, but I really like how the wrap turned out. So one thing that I want to note is that if you are using PNG files and SVG files, which is what I did to create this wrap, I use both different formats, you will have to select the vector files and the bitmap files, which is the SVG and PNG. You'll have to select those groups and set the parameters for each of them separately, because with the different file types, you can't set the parameters all at once. So that kind of threw me off for a second, but you just have to select each group and then hit engrave like in your panel and then put in your parameters and it will engrave everything the same. So you can use those different file types in one design. You just have to set the parameters for each one separately. So the settings I'm using for this tumbler are power at 75%, speed at 300, I'm doing one pass, and I did 240 lines per centimeter. Now I would recommend getting a test tumbler of each different like brand or size that you want to use because each tumbler type is going to have different settings. So I would recommend just getting a test tumbler, trying out a little section with specific settings until you find something that you like that will work for you. Okay, so let's talk about getting everything lined up in the right space on your tumbler. So when you do a tumbler, you don't have the marking feature that you do if you're just cutting out wood or something flat. So what I have figured out is that you take your laser and you put the cross part of your laser, like the center of it, right at the top rim in the middle of your cup, how I have positioned here. Now that is going to show up on your screen in XCS and it will tell you this is where the laser head is, and that's how you know that that's where the top of your tumbler is. So this is an old version of the wrap. I did make some changes, but you can see that little red cross right at the top of my design. So I can use that to make sure that my design or my wrap is lined up to cut or engrave right at the top rim of my tumbler. And because I took the measurements of my tumbler and I formatted my whole wrap based on the size of the cup, everything else should cut just fine. Now, spoiler alert, this didn't turn out super perfectly because those changes I made, I was a little bit off, so the pumpkin on the top is a little bit cut off, but that's okay. For the most part, it's pretty good for my first run. So from there, you'll just follow the same steps. You'll hit start in the upper right corner of your XCS software, and then you'll hit the button on your machine, and your machine will start engraving. I'll be honest, this 10-watt S1 takes a long time to engrave a tumbler like this. This one I think took like 2 to 2.5 hours. So just be prepared to keep yourself occupied because you don't want to leave the laser unattended. So just make sure you have something to do while your laser engraves. You can always just watch it because it is a really cool process to see. So once the laser was finished engraving, our tumbler is all finished. Now you'll notice when I pull this out of the laser, it's not like perfectly clean. Of course, it just was engraved. So we do need to wash it. And what I did was just take an old rag and some dish soap and I just scrubbed the heck out of it. You can also use like Barkeeper's Friend to get it clean. But this is what it looks like after I washed it. I am really, really proud of this, especially for it being my first full tumbler wrap that I've engraved. Definitely not perfect, like I said, but I'm pretty proud of it. I like it and I'll use it during Halloween. So that is it for this video. I really hope you all enjoyed it. I hope the information was helpful for you. I am so excited to be using this laser. I have so many different projects coming. Here's a few previews of some things I've been working on that you might be seeing on my channel very soon. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave them down below in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you have a laser, if there's anything you want to see on the channel, be sure to let me know. And I want to say a huge thank you to xTool for partnering with me. I'm so excited to be working with them, and I can't wait to bring you all of the fun content that we have planned. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Okay, love you. Bye! Hello friends, thanks so much for watching this video. I want to say a huge special thank you to my elite fam, my channel members, and my subscribers. You all make this channel possible, so thank you so much for being part of the fam. If you want more exclusive content from me, you can join my elite fam at patreon.com/elitefam. You can find my tumblers and digital files on my website madebymalstudio.com. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at madebymal_studio. Here's another video for you to check out, and I'll see you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Love you. Bye.